For more on this, we turn to Politico reporter Alex Eisenstadt. Alex, thanks for being with us. How would you describe this latest tit for tat, he said, she said, the president is engaging in with a military widow? And will the perception of questioning another Gold Star family hurt him?
It's kind of this remarkable thing, because this isn't something that's gone for 1 day or 2 days or even 3 days. This has now gone on for 8 days. It's now in its second week. And the issue of the tit for tat, Trump disputing what this Gold Star widow says, it's becoming a bigger and bigger PR problem for this White House at a time when they've got a lot of fish to fry, a lot of really important things that they're trying to get wrapped up by the end of the year legislatively. But this has become a really big distraction, and it just seems to never end.
And Myeshia Johnson in that interview also confirmed Congresswoman Wilson's account of that call. Right. As you know, the president, Alex, has been calling Wilson wacky, and General Kelly made false statements about her. How much does the widow's interview undermine the narrative that's been put forward by the White House?
Well, it does, because she gave a pretty compelling account of what happened, and she corroborated what Congresswoman Wilson said. And, you know, perhaps the president and this widow just have different accounts of what happened. That does happen sometimes on phone calls. People have different interpretations of what was said during a private phone call. But when you look at that widow's interview this morning on Good Morning America, it was fairly powerful what she had to say.
Johnson obviously wants answers about her husband's death.
Yeah.
She's in mourning. It happened during an ambush in Niger. We know very little else. And lawmakers wanting answers now, too. Have more details come out about what happened?
Well, we really don't know much at all. You're right, and this is the sort of thing that we're still waiting for more information on, and it's going to be interesting to see, because you're now having lawmakers from both parties coming out and saying they want to know more about what happened.
Switching gears, the president is pushing tax reform by the end of the year, and he will be meeting with lawmakers on Capitol Hill about that tomorrow. Alex, what does he need to convey to GOP members in that meeting?
Well, this is going to be a really fascinating lunch meeting that the president's headed to tomorrow with Senate Republicans on Capitol Hill, largely because there has been a lot of tension between him and those Senate lawmakers over the last few months. He has not been getting along with many of them. People like John McCain, people like Bob Corker, and others have made no secret they're not a fan of the way that Trump is doing his job right now. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this lunch meeting goes. You know, they're supposed to talk about tax reform. They're supposed to talk about legislation. But like a lot of other things with the president, this is something that could very well go in a lot of different directions. So do they talk about 2018? Do they talk about politics? Do they talk about tax reform? Do they talk about a legislative calendar in which things need to get done by? We simply don't know, but it's going to be a really fascinating meeting to watch.
Assuming that tax reform is on the table at that lunch, House Republicans still need to approve the Senate budget that would springboard tax reform talks. Where are they with that?
Well, this is something that came up over the weekend. The president had a conference call with House Republicans and said, look, you guys need to pass this Senate-approved budget. And there is some tension there because a lot of House Republicans who are very conservative, they don't like this Senate-approved budget. They don't think it does enough to cap the deficit. And so then, on the other hand, you have the president. He says, look, you guys need to pass this budget in order to get tax reform moving. And of course, this comes against the backdrop of this overwhelming sense that tax reform needs to pass for Republicans, because they need to be able to say they have some kind of legislative accomplishment, something they can bring home to show voters that they're actually getting something done. You're having a lot of Republican constituents across the country expressing some real frustration with Republicans that nothing has happened.
So like health reform, they need to sell this tax reform plan. And over the weekend, there was reporting that came out that one of the ideas for tax reform would affect Americans' 401ks. So this morning, the president tweets, there will be no change to your 401k. This has always been a great and popular middle-class tax break that works, and it stays. How does this directive, if you will, by tweet complicate efforts with the details of this plan still being worked out and negotiated among Republicans?
Well, you know, it's interesting to watch because what Republicans are really trying to do is they're saying, look, we want to get this thing done by the end of the year. They're trying to get tax reform passed by the end of the year, which is a tight timetable, perhaps not impossible, but definitely tight. But you're right, we really don't know what is going to be in this bill, what things are going to look like. And one wonders that once details do start to emerge, whether you are going to see more disagreements among Republicans about what should be done as it relates to tax reform. But no one really exactly knows how this looks like right now.
The president has gone back and forth over his support, meanwhile, for a bipartisan health care deal. Let's play some sound from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell on that.
Will you bring the Alexander Murray legislation to the floor of the Senate for a vote?
Well, what I'm waiting is to hear from President Trump what kind of health care bill he might sign. If there's a need for some kind of interim step here to stabilize the market, we need a bill the president will actually sign. And I'm not certain yet what the president's looking for here, but I'll be happy to bring a bill to the floor if I know President Trump would sign it.
So, where does the president stand on health care reform at this point?
And perhaps some exasperation there you just heard reflected from Leader McConnell, and that no one really knows exactly whether he would support that legislation, what he's looking for, when he would want to do this. Presumably, it's possible that the president might want to sign something next year because there is so much anger among Republicans that health reform among donors and constituents and Republican voters that health care reform did not pass this year. It's something they've been wanting for about 7 years now. They wanted to roll back what President Obama's main legislative accomplishment. That didn't happen. So there could be more pressure next year on the president to sign something, but it's unclear where he stands on this exactly.
And are there concerns on Capitol Hill that the confusion over where the president stands on health care could also impact the tax reform debate?
Well, absolutely, and this is the thing, is that nailing down the president on any given issue on any given day is a real challenge, and that's why this meeting tomorrow on Capitol Hill between Senate Republicans and the president is going to be so important to see what kind of details come out of it.
Alex Eisenstadt, thanks so much, Alex.
Thank you.